I cannot blame you for wanting to touch something so alluring as myself.
Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Astro Season Offense matches. Like last week, Oliver's bonus week was a great opportunity to show him off a bit, and I ended up carrying the same build that I used in Light Season over to this one. While attack speed unity isn't quite as consistent in Astro weeks, since there aren't any notes to take advantage of, it does still help pad up his offensive stats, and can also work at handling Bright Shrines or any chills that might come his way. Null Follow-Up also does a lot of work for him against opponents like Seiros, or Brave Edelgards, or any other auto-follow-up threats that might usually cause him trouble in melee. Pulse Smoke continues to keep him safe from any specials that might actually cause him problems, and the Speed Defense solo just helps pad up his weakest stats. His weapon offers him a pretty solid amount of post-combat healing and an extremely strong bonus to his attack and res, and Glacies just gives him an excellent way to one-shot any particularly troublesome targets. Raisin, as usual, is Oliver's unwilling heron and accomplice, enabling Oliver's weapon and providing the team with some extra start-of-turn healing and dances. He also brings a close and distant guard to Oliver's side, which can help him tank through some trickier tank busters. This team doesn't actually include a 4th mythic, since Gatekeeper actually ends up providing Oliver with better stats to work with than +5 hit points and +3 attack. The extra speed that Gatekeeper gives him is really useful, especially since it's very easy to give Oliver those stats from almost anywhere on the field. His ability to shut down warp effects is also extremely valuable, letting us shut down Catria balls and other dangerous warping effects that defense teams typically try to use. The extra drive, defense, and res also help pad Oliver's stats if we can manage to squeeze Gatekeeper in nearby. The Mythics, meanwhile, are set up to support Oliver. Naga can actually barely soak Dark Shrines from Oliver as long as they get similar buffs, and the Smite always helps with getting Oliver into position to potentially pick off a key target before the fight begins. Ashura brings a Sabotage attack and chill res to the field, which really helps Oliver stat check any of the opponents he runs into, along with helpfully providing him with Null Panic and a bonus to attack and res. Plumeria's Sabotage speed has honestly been extremely useful since her release, and a lot like Raisin, the double guard skills can help her keep Oliver safe from any exceptional threats, as long as we can fit her into a close position. I actually ended up using this team for all of my matches this week, although there was one match that I probably should have switched things up for. Even with that, though, this team still carried us through all 8 successes this week, and all the way up to a rank 1 finish. So let's get to the first match. This match is going to be a fun way to start the week, with not 1, but 2 threatening green mages for Oliver to handle. Thrasir isn't usually such a massive threat anymore, but when she's getting boosted by Seiros' Wings of Flight, she can do some damage, and the Session skill helps her a lot for attack and speed. And of course a bonus week Byleth, as we saw from last week. They're packing both of them up with a legendary Lilina, who's in season, and a legendary Leif, who's also in season this week. It's a very strong set of backline threats, and having a +10 Lungellywood to help pull the enemy front line into range of those threats can do a lot of work in just making sure that something dies. And of course Mirabilis to round out the team with dances, and the 7th unit Seiros. I think, though, that we're going to have a pretty easy time starting this map off. And I'm actually going to get this started right away, since, well, less time I give Seiros' Wings of Light to ramp up, the less scary Thrasir becomes. So we're going to start things off by having Naga smite Oliver forward, and maxing out all of their buffs. Then Raisin's going to move over and break this fence for us. Oliver is just going to warp over and protect Raisin from any and every threat.
Where to today?
And Gatekeeper's going to move Plumeria into position,
I am the answer.
and then we'll just say go. Edelgard should start this off by lunging Oliver out of position. Oh, and it looks like we won't have to tangle with Thrasir this turn after all. That's fine. Lilina and Leif are not really going to accomplish much here. And by lunging Oliver to the left, it just gives us another round of Ashura buffs to work with for the next turn. Yep.
Stunning, aren't I?
Ah, those Glacies hits. And they all just mill around the map. From here, even with a lot of their threat off the table, they do still have quite a bit to work with Byleth, who isn't getting sabotaged at the moment, and this Eliod, who's in the middle of our team.
Greetings.
But I think if I just move Gatekeeper over here, Oliver should be able to warp over here and one-shot Eliod. Then we're just going to dense him, move him forward to protect Raisin. Then we move Naga
There is but one future.
Why not?
into range of buffing everybody. Or Ashura into range of buffing. Yep. She gets danced forward, that's okay. She'll hit pretty hard here, since Oliver's actually tanking the Dark Shrine and getting debuffed by the combat debuff from Mirabilis. But he's still alright. We should actually be able to really start cleaning up this map. And I'm going to start with a bit of an odd move, since right now, Oliver actually one-shots Seiros, which isn't ideal. So we're going to move Gatekeeper out of the way, and stop buffing him with attack and speed, which lets Oliver fully charge his Glacies by attacking Seiros. He would actually have been able to knock out Byleth without charging Glacies first, but this way we don't have to tank the Ruptured Sky afterwards.
What is your desire?
From here, we'll just move Naga down,
I am the answer.
and flip Gatekeeper back into position,
Yes.
dance Oliver,
Let's tread carefully.
and let him one-shot Byleth.
Admire my poise.
And since there aren't any rallies on the team, from here we just get to bait out Mirabilis,
Close your eyes.
and start actually closing out the match. At this point, the real challenge is just making sure we get to this Aether pot before we close out the match, since Oliver isn't going to have any issues wiping Seiros out. He did that already. Thrasir. And down she goes. From here, we're actually going to just start blocking Mirabilis off,
Let's tread carefully.
Greetings.
and we're actually going to get to do this with
I'll
Gatekeeper,
do it.
since Gatekeeper,
Where
a
to
lot like
today?
Oliver, doesn't really care much
I
about
am the
Mirabilis.
answer. It will be done.
And even though Mirabilis chases after Gatekeeper, that's fine. We'll just have him pick up this Aether pot for us,
Don't you
and then
worry.
let Oliver close out the match.
Admire my poise.
That was a fun start to the week. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a slightly calmer one than the last one. They've got a pretty interesting set of threats here with a Reinhardt and an Erica as two ranged cavalry threats. This Loki in the corner is not terribly threatening, I think. She can get a solid chunk of speed with Darting Blow and her weapon, and she might be able to catch people off guard thanks to the combination of aerobatics and, well, fire formation doesn't do much for her on this team. But being able to escape this corner can catch people off guard sometimes. Their front line's also fairly solid with Seiros and much rarer than she used to be, Fallen Corrin, along with a bonus week Duma to round out the squad. I don't think I'm going to have many issues with this. Oliver should be able to handle things pretty well. We are going to take a turn to set things up though. And we'll use Oliver's mobility to
I am
help
the
get
answer.
everybody into the right spots.
Reporting for duty.
Gatekeeper's just going to open up this right
I'll
side
do
of
it.
the map
Where to today?
and clear out some of the structures we don't want to deal with.
Greetings. What is your
And Naga
desire?
moves in behind Oliver, and we can get ready to start this up. From here, we're just going to smite Oliver forward. And we're not actually going to worry about this bolt trap at all. We're just going to see if it's real. If it's not, we can just knock out Seiros. If it is,
Close your
we can still
eyes.
knock out Seiros.
Where to today?
And we aren't worried at all about the damage he's taken from this, since he'll just get to start healing all of it right back up. This Bright Shrine is also very helpful for us, since it gives Oliver a very hefty boost to his attack and speed. Here we're going to knock out Duma and make sure that both Reinhardt and Erica get to attack him next turn. Or on the enemy phase, at least.
There is
And
but
then we'll
one
just have
future.
Ashra flip Naga forward. And say go. Corrin attacks first, but she's not going to get anything done here. Except, well, continue healing Oliver back towards full health. Even after she gets danced, she can't really get much done. And then Erica and Reinhardt will helpfully finish topping Oliver off.
This is true beauty.
Ow. That was a lot of damage.
Huh?
And yeah, Reinhardt's not getting anything done either. And Loki can't escape her corner, so it's a very easy following turn for us. From here, our biggest concern is just picking up the pots before we close things out.
Don't you worry.
Oliver can just one-shot Corrin. Those attack speed penalties are doing so much work for him. And then we'll just dance him and let him glaze his Death Stone.
poise.
Sadly, this tactic room is actually stopping us from closing out the match this turn, since
There
it's
is
slowing
but
Asher
one
down.
future.
But
Yes.
that's okay. We can wait one more turn to finish things off.
Let's tread
And
carefully.
just have Oliver break that tactic room, so
Reporting
we
for
don't have to
duty.
worry about it anymore. Gatekeeper can pick up the first pawn,
It will be done.
and we already found the
I
real
am the
bolt trap,
answer.
so I'm not too worried about this one.
Oh,
From here,
Don't you
Oliver can pick up
worry.
this Aether pot,
What now?
we'll dance him,
Flawless.
and make our first shot at knocking Loki out. And it's a fake trap. Good. Don't have to mess around too much. She's not putting up much of a fight here. And that's a pretty clean match. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be an interesting one. They've got a pretty decent array of annoyances to handle, with Winter Bernadetta in the corner, although this healing tower doesn't really play well with her, since I think it cancels out the effects of her weapon completely with her current position. They've also got a Henriette as a far-save bodyguard for everyone except Seiros. And this is actually one of the things that makes handling this annoying with Oliver, since it's a little trickier to just, say, snipe Sarah and snipe Seiros before tanking the rest of this. They've also got Mirabilis and Peony for dances. The Air Orders is an interesting skill for her. I think they might have wanted Flyer Guidance instead, since it doesn't really do much unless Peony and Mirabilis actually end up standing next to each other. And tie this whole team together with the legendary Lilina who's in season. This match is going to be interesting. I'm not sure how these turns are going to play out exactly. I'm going to actually get things started right away here, and
What is your desire?
spend the first turn just testing traps and getting this map moving. We can actually take
Flawless.
advantage of Oliver's warp effect here to let him test one gravity trap before being danced over and
Don't you worry.
finding the real one.
Close
I'm
your
just gonna move
eyes.
Plumeria over. I should have probably moved her first, but that's
Reporting
okay.
for duty.
Oliver shouldn't need the extra res
There is but
to
one
make things
future.
work here. And from here, we should end up just having Sarah attack us a few times and do absolutely nothing except hurt herself. The thing I'm not sure about is where Peony is going to end up dancing. Okay. So because she danced from behind Sarah, that means that Seiros is going to end up repositioning Sarah to the right after she's done attacking, which means that we end up getting to knock out Lilina this turn. And Lilina's special should do a little bit of damage, or would if she still had it available.
Admire my poise.
But she's not going to be able to knock Oliver out. And then Henriette considerately pivots forward. From
Don't
here,
you worry.
Henriette's a bit annoying to handle when you're attacking into her, but
Let's
we're
tread
actually going to end up doing this, since getting her out of the way is important, because with her protecting everybody, it's a bit harder to pick off other targets. And while we can't knock her out here, it's not like she does any damage back to us. And it's
Yes?
pretty easy to just dance Oliver
Flawless.
and finish her off.
Ha!
With Henriette out of the way, we're going to
Yes.
pull Naga back,
Yes.
smite Plumeria forward, which gives
Why
her
not?
that one movement she needs to reach Oliver and dance him forward,
Don't you worry.
and pick off Peony.
Admire my poise.
Which should set Oliver up nicely to tank Seiros a couple of times before enemy phasing Bernadetta, and, well, shrugging off Sarah again.
Greetings!
I'll just flip Naga forward and say go. Yep, Seiros attacks in, and she can do some damage, but I actually didn't notice it until I was looking over the last turn, but Mirabilis doesn't have her special dance equipped, so she doesn't actually get to debuff Oliver for this combat, and means Seiros isn't doing quite as much as she could. It also means we don't get to take advantage of an attack debuff, but, well, you take what you can get. And then Bernie moves in, and with her entire kit offline, there's just nothing she can do about this combat.
This is true beauty.
That healing tower really doesn't do her any favors. At this point, we've handled basically all of the threats on the field, so we just need to make sure we pick these pots up before we close things out.
Don't you worry.
It's easy enough for Oliver to clean up Seiros. No follow-up means that she doesn't really have a way to handle him, and he has more than enough res to punch through Dragon Wall. And while I was originally planning to just let Oliver tank Mirabilis, Sarah's actually in the better spot for us here, since she worked herself into this little corner. So what we're going to do is just dance Oliver,
Flawless.
move him forward one tile,
Let us go.
dance him again, and then
Don't
move him
you
here
worry.
to trap Sarah.
Ha!
This also lets us break this very annoying tactic room before it continues causing us problems.
It will be done. There is but one future.
Where to today?
Which should let us clean up these pots pretty easily before closing out the match.
I am the
Here
answer.
it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to
What
need
is your
to take a
desire?
couple of turns to
Yes?
reach this pot in the top left.
Yes.
Sadly, it's a little out of reach this turn,
Reporting for duty.
Close your eyes.
but that's okay. It's not like
Yes.
Sarah's really getting anything done, and Oliver
Let's
can
tread
just pick this
carefully.
pot up and stop her from attacking again.
It will
And
be
then
done.
Naga can pick that up.
Greetings!
We'll just get everyone in position
not?
to support Oliver
What now?
while he
Flawless.
places
How frightening.
and knocks Sarah out. That was another fun match. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a quieter one. It's a completely boxed-in setup with no mythics to boost any of their stats, so hopefully this catches them out of lockout, otherwise it's going to take a solid bite out of their lift for the week. They do have a plus 10 Tiki on their team, maxed out. It's really cool to see. It's very solid, honestly. Hope she ends up getting Resplendent at least at some point. She hasn't gotten as much attention as the young version of Tiki has. I don't really expect to have any problems handling this. Oliver should be able to clean this up without any issues. We're going to just go in for it. We don't really need to worry about this bolt trap, since, well, Oliver's not going to be taking much damage, if any, from Veronica. And the Dragon Slaying buff means that you'd be able to one-shot Tiki even if she wasn't stuck at one hit point from this bolt trap.
Reporting for duty.
Here, we'll just let Gatekeeper move in to buff Oliver.
Yes.
Move Raisin up here as well.
It will be done.
And let Oliver take out Tiki. The enemy phase should be pretty straightforward, with Veronica just attacking into Oliver twice and healing him, while also charging up Glacies, which is important since we're going to need that once we go in to fight Edelgard. And the dance does really nothing, except let Alt and Veronica continue to help us. Tiki does get to escape her little corner thanks to guidance, but it's not that big a deal.
Flawless!
Oliver's going to be able to finish charging Glacies by one-shotting Veronica. Leaving the rest of the team stuck behind a wall. And here, we're just going to continue testing traps. Okay, so that's the real gravity trap over here.
Greetings.
Gatekeeper can move over. We can just start breaking things
Let's tread carefully.
while we
What is your
move
desire?
Oliver into position to take out Edelgard next turn.
Close your eyes.
Where
Oops.
to today?
And there we go. The chill attack buff from Olivia is actually very helpful, since
Don't
it
you
hits Oliver
worry.
and gives him plenty of attack to just move in and one-shot Edelgard.
This is true beauty.
Even the damage reduction isn't saving her from a Glacies hit.
Why not?
And then from here we can start cleaning up the rest.
Reporting for duty.
Plumeria dancing Oliver lets him
Flawless!
move over and clean up Tiki after Gatekeeper opens the path.
Ha!
And since we already found the real bolt trap, Raisin can dance him forward.
I am the answer.
Asher can break this bolt tower,
Let's tread carefully.
and we'll have him take out Olivia as well.
Here.
Yes.
And at this point, Surtur's still stuck behind his wall of structures and can't really accomplish anything.
Don't you
And then from here
worry.
it should be a very simple matter
Let us go.
of picking up both pots,
Greetings.
getting Plumeria over
Close
here
your
to dance
eyes.
Oliver,
Let's tread carefully.
and just attacking Surtur for the win.
Ha!
It was a pretty straightforward match. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a bit more interesting than the last one, with a bit of a combo trap with a rally on this Roy, who's not actually an Elliewood, and a Reinhardt to give them a nice easy target next to this defense tile to rally forward onto. They also have a Camilla with a restore trap, but without an aerobatics of some sort, she's not really presenting much of a trap since she can't reach this tile and force herself onto it to use her heal. They also only have one dancer, which makes things a little easy to isolate if they're not careful. But this harsh command from Gatekeeper's honestly a pretty big deal when, let's say, you're running sabotage, attack, and speed, and those get flipped on someone like Reinhardt. They also have Seiros and a 7th unit fallen Edelgard, who's using Gale Force instead of Bonfire, which should actually make her a lot easier to handle later on. I'm actually planning to get things started on the first turn here, just to give myself more time to work with, and since we don't really need to avoid a turn 1 trap, when we can just set up
What
immediately.
is your desire?
Close your eyes.
I don't have to worry about Edelgard at all here,
Where
since,
to
well,
today?
Mirabilis can never reach her.
There is but one future.
What now?
We're just going to dance Ashura after that,
Yes.
move her down here, and let Oliver move in to bait the world. Nope. There's a restore, and a harsh command, and a dance, which actually means that Roy doesn't get to lunge us forward, which is fine with me. The combination of buffs means Reinhardt actually gets to do a little bit of damage to Oliver, but it's not really enough. And charging up Glacies just means that it's very easy for Oliver to one-shot Gatekeeper afterwards.
Admire my poise.
Down he goes. And the rest of the team can't catch us here. The first turn went pretty well, but we still do have some annoying stuff to navigate with this Roy and this Camilla, mostly. So what we're actually going to do here is test this bolt trap. Okay, it's real. It's not a problem. Oliver's not going to really need to worry too much about that, since from here, we're just going to eliminate their only dancer from the field. Which also stops anything except Camilla from reaching us, and she's not going to attack us, since she's going to prioritize Restore instead. It also means that we can have Rayson wing in and dance him to get rid of this tactic room ahead of the next turn.
I am
Then
the
we'll
answer.
move Ashura in here to buff him for next
Reporting
turn,
for duty.
and Gatekeeper over here,
It will
just
be
to make
done.
sure that Oliver is never going to have an issue surviving Camilla while panicked. Rally comes through, so does Restore, and then they just move forward. From here, we're going to start by taking care of Edelgard. Even though Oliver's weapon does get disabled when attacking a beast, it's still going to be okay here. Their Bright Shrine's helping out a lot with this combat. And she can't quite finish him off without Bonfire. Meanwhile, once she's dropped down to 12 health herself, she can't really
Close
do
your
anything with her
eyes.
own weapon. Which means we can have Oliver start by breaking Seiros. And healing up a little bit.
Yes.
Before having Rayson dance him,
Let's tread carefully.
and letting him finish Edelgard off. And once that's done, Gatekeeper can pull
today?
Rayson back to safety,
Yes.
and we'll
There
just
is but
reposition
one
out of range
future.
of the remainder of their team. Yep. And well, Roy's not going to get much done here.
Flawless.
Oliver can finish him off without any issues. Then we're just
Why
going
not?
to slowly dance him forward
Don't you worry.
Greetings.
to intercept. This actually was a misclick. I meant to dance Oliver
What now?
into position here, but it's still okay.
Let's tread carefully.
Camilla's still not going to get anything done to him,
It will be done.
and that means we can just
Yes.
take our time reaching the pots before we close out the match. This was actually kind of rude. I expected Camilla to move here since it's a little bit less of a risky spot, but that's okay.
Don't you worry.
We should be able to box her in against this Panic Manor now,
I'll do it.
with a couple of well-placed repositions
Flawless.
Yes.
and dances,
Yes.
and Smite to round things out.
Let's tread
And all of that
carefully.
lets Oliver pick up the first pot and keep Camilla nice
There
and
is
snug
but one future.
until we're ready to finish the match.
Don't
And
you
then from
worry.
here, Oliver picks up the pot,
Let us go.
Rayson can wings and dance him one last time,
Let's tread carefully.
and we can Glacies Camilla for a clean finish.
Stunning, aren't I?
It was a fun match to navigate. I got to use a lot of warping shenanigans there. Let's see what we get next. This match was really unfortunate looking back at it. I was looking forward to playing this out since it's not every day you get to see Oliver taking on a maxed out Brave Hector and a maxed out Brave Micaiah, along with the Niffle and Duo Lyn backing them up. It's a pretty solid setup. It's very difficult to break through Hector thanks to Niffle offering him that 30% damage reduction. And trying to tank it can end up going really poorly thanks to Niffle herself shutting down counterattacks. Not to mention the Micaiah being an absolute menace with her kit. The idea I had was to have Oliver break through Hector and Niffle before tanking the units behind them. And I think this could have actually worked out if I had brought a different team along. While Gatekeeper does let us shut down the warp effects and prevent any rallies from going too far at a time, Azura herself ends up being the problem, since giving a ranged unit 3 movement can give them access to your backline if you're not very careful about positioning. And unfortunately I wasn't as careful as I should have been here. While we do get to punch through Hector and Niffle without too many problems, Plumeria and Gatekeeper are actually a little bit vulnerable here, since once Lyn gets danced by Azura and then danced again by Mirabilis, she can go and find Plumeria instead of attacking Oliver like I expected her to. And that's enough for me to surrender and move on. This match is going to be another fun one. It's been a while since I saw a Dancerless team, and they've kind of cornered themselves in here, with one spot to enter and exit from, but it also makes a very convenient choke point. They do guard it with bolt traps, but bolt traps aren't too hard to test. They do have a pretty solid array of firepower behind it, though, to try and discourage people from using it as a choke point, including this bonus week Byleth, and a Thrasir, who's being boosted by Seiros' Wings of Light, and in season Leif, and a plus 10 Sophia. Sophia is an interesting choice. She's very highly merged, but she's still a lot more of an enemy phase red mage than one that'll make a lot of offensive threat. They've also got a 7th unit Edelgard in the corner, and a Halloween Tiki as an extra blue dragon threat. This Infantry School is actually probably the most threatening part of their defense for Oliver, but I don't think it's going to really slow him down at all. And we should be able to test this bolt trap and get things started on the second turn.
Where to today?
I'm going to start by moving Gatekeeper forward and picking up this first Aether pot.
Why not?
And we can dance him,
It will be
smite
done.
him onto the trap, and that's the fake one. That's fine.
Reporting for duty.
We're going to break this lamp next, and
There is
then
but
have
one
Ashra
future.
flip Plumeria
What now?
and Gatekeeper
Yes.
out of the danger zone.
Let's tread
And then we
carefully.
can just have Oliver move up here and flip Racing forward. Nothing happens, we're out of their attack range. So from here, we're not actually going to attack anything with Oliver, we're just going to move him straight forward, well, sideways,
What is your
and
desire?
smite him forward to give him a full spectrum of buffs, while Gatekeeper,
Oh, I'll do
and
it.
Peony,
Yes.
Let us go.
and Raisin all move in behind him.
I am the answer.
From here, Seiros should actually attack Oliver first, since well, he can't counterattack her, which actually ends up saving him a chunk of damage from Byleth, since we get to Pulse Smoke his special away. Byleth still attacks next, since he can do more damage than anyone else on his team, but he's not going to punch through Oliver here. And Oliver, with that helpful -9/-9 penalty to his attack and speed, is always going to have an easy time finishing Byleth off.
Stunning, aren't I?
Leif too, for that matter. And even with that -9 penalty to defense, Leif can't really get anything done except start healing Oliver. While Thrasir and Sophia after her should just give him enough health to almost top him off before the next turn starts. And Raisin should finish that off.
How frightening!
Down she goes. TK should actually flip Seiros out of the way here, and it makes things a little more interesting to plan out this turn. From here, the trickiest part of this map is going to be taking out Edelgard, and we're going to want to wait and get ourselves a nice Glacies to help handle her. So we're just going to move Oliver this way, and open up this for now.
Close your
Was the
eyes.
fake trap. Then we'll just dance him and give him some buffs to work with,
Flawless!
before having him move over and take down Tiki. We're not too worried about tanking Edelgard, since Oliver's at full health and Edelgard can't actually swing more than one time. So instead, we'll
There is
just
but
move
one
Ashra
future.
up
Yes?
and dance her, so that we can
Yes.
pick up the second Aether pot.
It
We
will
can
be
move
done.
Naga up here too. Edelgard moves in. She can do some damage, but it's not really enough to threaten Oliver too much. And Seiros just flips her back out of the way. From here, the debuffs we're getting from that Infantry School let us one-shot Seiros.
Ha!
And then we should be able
I'll
to
do it.
dance him and
Let's
step
tread
forward
carefully.
to one-shot Edelgard as well.
Admire my poise.
Oof. That was a fun match. Watching Oliver tank his way through that it's a treat. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a fun one at the end of the week. It's been a little while since I've seen a camp, and I do think that the flash effect on a melee unit is actually really strong, since it's pretty rare for it to come attached to a melee at all. Most flash effects are ranged, and that can really mess with a lot of people's strategies for dealing with the effect. We've also got a Dimitri here, legendary Dimitri in season, and a bonus week Byleth to back him up. Outside of the two dancers, they also have 3 mythics boosting all of their stats, and the +6 attack from the combination of Duma and Seiros makes it very difficult to tank Byleth and Dimitri safely. Of course, that's not really going to stop Oliver, who's planning to do exactly that. This first turn actually took a little bit of thinking
Greetings.
to plan out, and it ends up being a kind of convoluted setup. Testing this first trap is important for the next turn,
I am the answer.
and then we're going to sneak Ashura all the way over here
Why not?
There is but one future.
to open up a couple of
What now?
structures, and let Gatekeeper step forward
Reporting for duty.
and break this catapult
Flawless!
before we move Oliver back. In this position, we should be able
It will
to
be
smite
done.
Oliver forward. Actually, had to double take for a moment there. I got a bit ahead of myself. I'm going to actually need to take a couple more turns, since I forgot that Naga is not actually getting buffed by
Yes.
Ashura this turn, which means that Oliver would be soaking this Dark Shrine. And while he would still be able to come out on top,
Where
he
to
wouldn't
today?
if this is a real trap, which it's not. But there was no reason to take that chance this turn. And that's okay.
Close your eyes.
We can just hang out for a couple more turns while we wait for Dimitri's Odd Tempest to wear off again.
Reporting
There's
for
no
duty.
reason to completely waste this turn, though. We can have Gatekeeper pick up this pot, and he'll still be able to move into range of Oliver for the next turn.
What is your desire?
And we can just have Naka move up here. And wait one more turn.
It will
And
be
now that
done.
we've fixed our near mistake, we'll smite Oliver forward and have him
Don't
break
you
through
worry.
Kemp from out of range of almost all of his support. This is actually very important, since
Ha!
it means that it takes 2 hits to knock Kemp out, and that means that we'll have a 2-charge Glacies ready and waiting to deal with Byleth on this next
I'll
turn.
do it.
We can dance him from here,
There is
then
but
have
one
Ashura
future.
flip Plumeria back to safety.
Yes?
We'll let Rayson dance Ashura again,
I am the
and she'll
answer.
just move back here.
Where to
We'll have
today?
Gatekeeper back up 1 space, and then let Oliver
Flawless.
move here, and get in position to tank the world. Or, more specifically, Mirabilis at the start. The way we set this up is important, since it means that Mirabilis could survive the combat, while Byleth couldn't.
For a new tomorrow.
That means that Mirabilis attacks before him, instead of potentially dancing somebody later on.
This is true beauty!
And down goes Byleth. We should end up tanking Dimitri here too. I think he's going to pull Mirabilis back, and get danced, and attack into Oliver. And while Atrocity does let him do a solid chunk of damage, it's still just not quite enough to break through Oliver. And then everybody just moves in. That turn went pretty well, and now it's just about cleaning up the remaining threats. And we should be able to do
Don't
that
you
all in
worry.
one turn before letting Oliver tank his way through the dancers. We'll start with Dimitri. He is in front, and, well, Oliver wants his revenge. But it also means that it's easy for
Close
Plumeria
your eyes.
to dance him while staying out of range of Mirabilis.
Flawless!
From here, he should be able to attack into Duma and finish him off, even without Unity active.
Ha!
And
What
since
now?
Rayson is actually gravitied here, thanks to that
Yes.
trap from last turn, we just smite him forward
Let us go.
to let him dance Oliver. We
Let's
can
tread
move in and
carefully.
finish off Seiros. I would have liked to
This is true beauty!
have Rayson dance Oliver from the spot below him, but with the gravity effect in play, there wasn't quite a good way to make that work. So
Where
we'll
to
just let
today?
Gatekeeper potentially tank Mirabilis instead.
Yes.
And Oliver should have no problems handling Ninian here. That's okay. Well, sadly it means we don't have a Glacies charged for the next turn, but we'll live. From here it's just a matter of picking up this last Aether pot
Yes?
before dancing Oliver
Flawless!
and closing out the match.
Here.
This match will be a fun way to close out the week, featuring a few of the familiar faces from last match as well. Legendary Dimitri is a pretty scary unit to try and tank, even if we just did that, and so is Legendary Byleth. This one's using Deathblow to help bolster his attack, even though he isn't plus attack like the other one was. Rounding their team out with a duo Idun, who's really solid. I still wish I could have pulled her. I tried on her debut banner and it didn't work out. Maybe someday. They also have this plus 10 Denser Eldegan, who's quite impressive. Plus 7 Dragonflowers already too. And round the team out with 3 Mythics. Bonesweet Duma, Seiros, and Mirabilis. It's an interesting team, and this layout is... it's not really walled in, since you do have to work your way in here and can't just really attack too easily without breaking some structures first. But it still does funnel the entire team towards this left side if you don't break too many structures. Which I'm planning to take advantage of, since it should make it easy to pick the pots up later on. I'm going to start just by testing this first trap, and then flipping Naga back out of the way.
What now?
And then we'll just move Raisin and
There is
Asher
but
over.
one future.
Reporting for duty.
Gatekeeper
Why
and
not?
Plumeria behind them.
Greetings.
Nothing happens the first turn, since we're out of their range. And
It
then we
will
can
be
just
done.
smite Oliver forward, onto the real trap. And start
you
things off by
worry.
letting him break through Seiros. From here,
Let us
we're
go.
going to dance him, and actually just move even further in
Flawless!
to smite Mirabilis next.
Here.
Sniping Mirabilis is important since it reduces their team to 1 Dancer, and importantly, makes sure that Dimitri isn't going to be able to get danced this turn.
Reporting for duty.
From
I
there,
am the
we're going
answer.
to flip Plumeria over here, and move her into what looks like the threat range of Dimitri, but he's not going to have this Odd Tempest buff next turn,
Close
so
your eyes.
it's safe to move Plumeria up here and let her boost Oliver a little more.
Where to today?
Now Gatekeeper moves up behind her. Dimitri should attack first. He does the most damage of anyone who can attack and survive Oliver here. And Idun moves in next, but she's also out of range of Eldegan, so can't actually reach Plumeria after this attack, and all the attack does is heal Oliver a bit more before Byleth moves in. I was actually pretty surprised to see Byleth using Aether. I feel like that might have been a mistake when they put
How
the defense together.
frightening!
Maybe just left over from using him in Arena. But it does mean that Oliver has no problems tanking him, and the Glacies just one-shots him very easily. Actually, it wouldn't have mattered if he had been equipped with Sublime Heaven, since Dimitri would have gotten the special pulse smoked away anyway. We're actually going to start things off by taking Dimitri down here.
Ha!
And Oliver should just be able to march on through the rest of their threats.
Oh,
Maria
I'll do
can
it.
dance him forward and
Don't you
let him
worry.
take out Duma.
Yes?
And then Rayson moves in, lances him another
Let's
time,
tread carefully.
and lets him break through Idu. This also lets us bait Eldigan into a more manageable position for us to just stall him out while we pick up the
This is
pots
true
later.
beauty.
It's a lot of damage.
Reporting for duty.
And now we can just start opening things up a bit.
There is but one future. Yes.
Eldigan moves in, and that's fine. He's never actually going to outdamage Oliver's healing, especially with Rayson backing him up. At this point, the match is basically won, and we just want to pick up these ether pots before we finish. Even
What
if
is
it
your
is the last
desire?
match and we don't technically need them. Oh, that is the real trap.
Yes.
It's fine. Asher can break this lamp post for us,
Why
and we'll
not?
dance her out of Eldigan's range.
There is but one
Go break this
future.
tactic room next.
Greetings.
And then we'll just move Gatekeeper down,
What now?
Rayson down, and Oliver down one space. This should bait Eldigan into the left side, yep, making it even easier to reach the pots safely. Although at this point we probably don't need to worry too much about that,
Yes.
since we can just smite Plumeria forward,
Close your eyes.
have her pick up one pot,
I am the
let
answer.
Asher pick up the second one,
Let's tread
and have
carefully.
Oliver finish off his bonus week by bringing down Eldigan. This was another fun week with Oliver. It's great to see him in action again, and it was a real treat to actually be able to hit rank 1 with him in his bonus week. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to close that out. I don't know how much I'll continue using him going forward. It can be a bit tricky to work him into the teams when he's not the bonus, since he does want a Heron on the team as well. Maybe someday we'll get one as a mythic, which would make it a lot easier to use him. I do have a Discord server if you'd like to hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and I've also got a Patreon page there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.